My name is Caroline Poynton from Manchester Bury. I'm recording you again off YouTube because I'm getting quite interested in this with Restore Britain and everything else. And Reform, they're just losing it. And they could just do one GB News again, Talk TVs or whatever they are. Sick of them. No, all I keep talking about is Restore Britain. Now.
If you are somebody
addicted, aren't they, talking about Restore Britain.
It's been referenced a few times so far, this podcast, but I think it's better taking a more in-depth look at the fact that in Western politics in general, there seems to be an umbrella that most politics has to operate under, which has become clearer and clearer over the past few years, and we're starting to set up alternatives so that we can have our own politics on our own terms and be able to represent ourselves unashamedly. And one of the big examples of this, and really what the establishment finds acceptable and what it doesn't find acceptable, was in this article that we highlighted a few times now, but we'll go over in a little bit more detail here, which was Melanie Phillips' article for The Times called "Restore's Extremism is a Problem for Nigel Farage." Now, it was mentioned in the last segment that most of this article is actually basically an endorsement for Restore if you are somebody who cares about the British people, policies that will benefit them and not benefit foreign interests, whether that be Islamic foreign interests or otherwise. It's a bit of a ringing endorsement for them.
Well, just what I love about this is they're caught in a kind of double bind here as well. Accurately characterising Restore's message is an endorsement of Restore because it's a message that's so far out of the norm, out of the mainstream, that people, oh yeah, that sounds pretty good. But then inaccurately and mischaracterising it, as in he's going to deport whole communities. Well, that's also an endorsement. Like, oh, really? He's going to get the entire community of child rapists out of the country, is he? And he has, well, I never said everyone. It's like, well, they're saying you're saying it, so, just saying. The point being, it's also an endorsement, and it also...
But it's interesting that they see these things as an attack,
yes,
and then how they try to lump you in with different political factions as a sort of guilt by association. But also is interesting in this article is the way in which Melanie Phillips herself mischaracterizes these other political factions and seems to have no understanding of what she's talking about, because she seems to have just lumped in everybody who she sees as not explicitly on her side together. Because Melanie Phillips has been an anti-radical Islam activist for a long while. She's been associated with the Conservative Party.
She was former a leftist.
She's
right, The Guardian.
Many are, but I believe now she's quite well associated with people like Douglas Murray. So for a long time, as somebody on social media pointed out to me, she'd been banging the tub, she'd been banging the drum for Britain and for England, until all of a sudden you start to get this offshoot politics with Restore, who are more explicitly for Britain and not for anybody else, just for Britain, at which point she's got a big problem. So let's examine that. So first of all, here's just a really endorsement that we find here.
Sorry, just a quick thing. I love that she characterises what you've just said as a form of extremism. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Having a politics for us is an extremism.
Well, first and foremost, and I don't think that this is mischaracterising her at all, she is a rabid ultra-nationalist for her own people.
She's been explicit about it.
She's been very, very clear about this. And she absolutely has the right to be.
Yeah,
I think it's perfectly rational and normal for people to have a great and endearing love for their own people. It's the fact that when other people start to do that same thing, it suddenly becomes a problem. You see the double standard and you see the umbrella that all of politics is having to operate under. So she says, Low has pledged to ban Muslim and Jewish ritual slaughter. The Burqa and Sharia courts has proposed not only the mass deportations of illegal immigrants, not only in addition deporting, quote, legal migrants who refuse to speak English, don't work, claim benefits, live in social housing, or actively hate us, but also dual nationals who have done nothing to stop the rape gangs. So a wife, she carries on, who knew her husband had been involved but said nothing, can go back to Pakistan, apparently even if she holds British citizenship, which suggests the way that she's writing that this is somehow a bad thing.
But if you're a member of the Jewish community, why wouldn't you support that?
Especially
overwhelmingly.
Who's a long-time anti-radical Islam activist as well.
Yeah. This means fewer Jews get stabbed in the face in Golders Green.
So there's a bit of a split.
If nothing else.
There are some that agree with that position.
Well, against the
there
Jews.
are others.
Like the Andrew Golds who agree with that position.
sort of. There are.
No, he does.
He crashed out and called me privately a Nazi recently, despite me.
Well, yeah, I don't know what he calls you private.
Despite that, there are others who say you can't repeal these specific laws that allow infinite numbers of refugees to come in, because if you would have repealed this law, then my grandparents, who were fleeing the Holocaust and the Kindertransport, wouldn't have come in. And they refused to draw qualitative distinctions between the types of people that have come in.
But also, your grandparents came in before we had these laws. They came in during World War II when something was happening, and these laws were put into effect after World War II to make sure that if something like this happened again, there would be a legal protection. But you didn't need the legal protection when you came here, because we are actually a generous and charitable country that wants to do the right thing. And if we feel it's the right thing to do something, then we'll just do it. We don't need a law to tell us.
The mistrust is that any white host majority population that possesses their own country will morph ineluctably into Adolf Hitler.
Correct.
And they're incorrect, and you're making a more persuasive argument, but unfortunately that is...
No, I agree. I know that's what they think.
That's the barrier we're running up against.
But it is amusing that in the way that this manifests in this article, it turns into her holding up a list of the most space things ever and says, "Is this you? Pretty shameful, don't you think?"
The only reason I don't want this on a t-shirt is because it's too long to print.
Yeah.
Yes.
So boil it down to a few bullet points, please, Melanie.
But the thing that people pointed out that really seemed to show where
I'll put
her
it in the
mind
song
is
for you,
when
Millie,
writing
is it?
this article was the fact that she drew
I'll
a
make a
comparison
sound of that
between
then.
Restore and their constituents with the Groypers, stating that the fact that Restore attracts such people, referring to the man from the Vox Populi interview who was very
Well,
articulate.
the dad
Yes.
who calmly explained what the problems were.
Yes, because of the fact that he showed great opposition
Average Groyper.
to pointless foreign wars, she was therefore able to lump him in with this larger group of people that she also disagrees with, because they're not willing to get down on their knees and worship her for her ethnic background.
Yeah.
Right? She says the fact that Restore attracts such people mirrors the way Trump's MAGA movement has given birth to the Groypers, the rabid conspiracy theorists and isolationists led by the podcaster Tucker Carlson, who ludicrously blamed the Jews for pressuring America into foreign wars against its own interests.
I thought it was Marco Rubio that said that.
Yeah,
it was that one.
literally Marco said that.
That was that one. No, that was a conspiracy theory. Marco Rubio's just
Clearly,
clearly.
US Secretary of State, who's the guy who would know.
Clearly, Rubio is an insider Groyper trying to sabotage the administration.
Marco Rubio's long game Groyper.
He's been reading too many conspiracy theories in between reports from the administration.
Just for anyone who doesn't know what this boom is talking about, the Groypers are actually not MAGA, they're America First, and their leader is Nick Fuentes, and he is well outside of the current social media consensus.
I mean, he had the interview with Tucker Carlson,
And they hate each other.
and now they hate each other all over again because a week later Nick decided to go off.
Well,
on
Tucker
Tucker.
did.
Tucker is... Well, accused him of being a purveyor of blood, guilt and a gay fed again, and it was unnecessary.
Well, there's a lot of unnecessary backstabbing.
There are a lot of feds, gay, not gay, you know. No, I was joking.
That's true, but everybody went, huh? Do you even know what you are talking about here?
It doesn't matter to much.
And Josh tried to call this out. In fact, everybody tried to call this out, but she decided to come out and defend her gaffe by saying that the Groypers has become a generic term for the subgroup of white nationalists, isolationists, and conspiracy theorists whose most prominent personality is Tucker Carlson. This isn't true. Which just
Really, Google search would have saved you this.
yeah.
That's really funny. Just everyone I don't like is a Groyper. It's like, oh, okay.
But that's literally it.
Yeah.
Everybody who isn't for me is a Groyper who is just a Nazi in disguise.
This is what Claire Fox said in the Cope session
Yeah.
Heard had, and she just said, "Oh, I see Groypers everywhere in the UK. They're peddling this like low-rent form of ethno-nationalism. How do we, the older people, gatekeep them out of institutions? Because of course, the major problem with Britain's political institutions is too many young people."
Obviously. That's really funny with the boomer mindset.
Yeah.
But also, again, so we've got an idea of what is unacceptable within the establishment, because she could be seen as an establishment figure.
Oh, completely.
Right?
Right at the time.
She absolutely is. Okay, so what is acceptable for somebody of a high position within the establishment to go and say publicly, which is filmed and released on the internet, where presumably they just think that nobody's going to watch this, right? Well, we can find out from a number of clips that have been circulating of her recently, where this is one of my favourite ones that started circulating in July of last year, where at a conference she was asked whether the goyim, using that actual term, the goyim, which if you remember is the same term that Jeffrey Epstein and associates used to describe people like us.
It's a derogatory term that describes any non-Jew.
Yes, should be Christian or atheist while speaking to an audience in Jerusalem. Just play a bit of the clip.
Concerning being religious or coming back to being civilized, there are two different agendas. One of Rav Ori Shaki, who sits with us today, that says that the Goyim should be Bnei Noach. They shouldn't be like religious Christians. And the second is Yoram Chazonis or Dennis Prager's or maybe other conservative intellectuals who say to them, be good Christians. So which agenda do you think is the best?
Be good Christians. But please, be good Christians of the kind of Christian that love us. Be good.
So there's the boundaries set for national politics of the Goyim.
So don't be Catholic.
Essentially, but that's interesting that in the foreign nation they can see they can happily discuss again the umbrella, the boundaries of our national politics.
How should it be their concern? Sorry, you don't get to decide what kind of religion we do or don't have.
But it has to always be centred in Melanie Phillips' mind around them.
So I have a story.
Oh yes.
So when I got taken on an Israel trip last year to see the holy sites before one side or the other decided to bomb it into rubble.
The Israel trip I didn't go on, by the way.
Yeah, I know, you got invited. Some other people went on it and haven't disclosed, but I won't cut them in. Anyway, no, it was well worth it because you get some insight into the conflicts of the region and why it's really not our problem. So Melanie Phillips, one of the speakers, because what they did is they took us on this exhausting tour around all the different places, and I got to see the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, fantastic. And then they would give us sort of like lectures and seminars from people that were trying to put across a obviously pro-Israel narrative. And Melanie was the last one, and there was a sort of 20-minute argument in the Q&A between myself and a couple of other people, saying, You're putting forward a case for why you had to basically flee Britain, spend most of your time living in Israel now because of all the anti-Semitism. That comes mainly from Islam. I don't like Islam very much. You've written books about Islam. If we were to eject Islam from Britain and engage in Islamic remigration, would you support that? And she said no.
What?
Because she
Wasn't that what all of your activism has been directed towards?
Yeah.
Because she was worried about the rise of the far right. And I pointed it out and I just said, look, you are saying that Britain can't have the same standard of national identity where the British people, which is an ethnic group, the English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish, have the primary claim to their own country, they are represented first in their culture, and they have the predominant say in their own politics. You are saying that we can't have that, but they should support Israel having that because that is successful in Israel, and that because Jews are a global minority, they deserve that kind of country, when we are also a global minority and we're about to become a minority in our own country, and Israelis would not put up with Jews becoming a minority in Israel, so why do we have to do the same? And she said to me, in so many words, almost a direct quote, if you think that kind of ethno-nationalism is going to get far in Britain, I have another thing to tell you. There's a Jewish guy at the back of the room that just shouted, I'm an ethno-nationalist for Israel, I don't see why they can't be basically for Britain. Now, I don't even use that term, but if you're going to insist that double standard has to persist, then you're going to lose people. And people are just going to see you as an ethnic partisan.
Yes.
Yes, carrying on along that same line, she has made a public speech again, this Rage Against Hate speech, where she said explicitly that there needs to be some kind of double standard where you are not, in Britain, you are not just British Jews with Judaism added on, you're part of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation, and that should come first and foremost. You are Jews, everything else is secondary, which is where all of this politics is coming from, that she is putting herself and her group first.
Fascinating comment at the bottom there. This is almost exactly what Jonathan Pollard said after fleeing to Israel. Who's been writing all of the hit pieces against Restore Britain in the last couple of days in the Mail and the Telegraph? What
It's
on earth?
for me and not for thee.
And there've been
Just
some
remarkable.
There've been some very strange other comments that she's made recently because she's got a new book out,
Oh, yeah.
and she has been speaking about this book.
Isn't that the Builder's Stone or something, I think?
It's a handbook on how to tackle what she sees as the rise of anti-Jewish hate in the West at the moment. And she says that what you need to do is engage in psychological warfare and psyops to get people to...
Can we listen to this clip just to make sure that we're not misquoting?
No, of course.
One of the things I say briefly in the book is that what we've all been up against over decades is nothing short of psychological warfare. Now, the Jewish community leadership, both in the diaspora and in Israel, doesn't think like that. It doesn't think that in order to fight psychological warfare, you have to use psychological warfare. There are plenty of people in this country who, well, not plenty, there are some, who are experts in what's called psyops. They should be used. They can be drawn upon. These are reservoirs of talent and skill that could be used and harnessed to really make a difference. You have to have people who understand the nature and extent and dimensions of the challenge and who are prepared to buck all the conventional wisdom of all the community leaders who have led us into this appalling situation of being relatively undefended for decades.
Why is there a rise in conspiracy theories?
Plain as day.
I genuinely thought when that began, yeah, see, they are mischaracterized.
Yeah, I thought that was editorialised.
Yeah.
No,
But, okay, fair enough.
Note as well that this was held at the Begin Centre, named after Menachem Begin, one of the terrorists who conducted the King David bombings.
Oh, really?
In the 1940s following the Second World War. So literally a building named after somebody who helped to kill British servicemen. Thanks very much for that. And happily, when we talk about PSYOPs, well, we've got a list from the book, Fighting the Hate, a handbook for Jews in the Siege, where she gives the exact details of how you should do that, including use weapons of psychological warfare, reputational damage against your tormentors, shift the argument onto the ground of your own choosing, reframe the narrative, reclaim the language to restore the proper meaning of words that have been hijacked, which all sounds an awful lot exactly like the kind of tactics that were being done in this article.
Yeah, you would expect that. But this is fairly normal argumentative framing, right? Obviously, if you're in an argument about something, you've got to reframe the narrative. Right? You've got to be positive about your own position, be positive about Israel. But these are not actually terribly sophisticated or unusual things to do. You are just doing them for Israel and Jewish people, and that's what I would expect.
It is.
I'm going to do it for my own argument.
Exactly, it's to be expected. It's in a way legitimate from the position of having a preference and love for your own people, history, heritage, culture, and wanting to secure a future for your children, but then you can't say that I also can't have that desire. And I also have to have that desire for your nation at the expense of my own.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Develop curricula to counter anti-Israel propaganda in schools. Why would I have propaganda either for or against about a foreign country in British schools? Why would I have that?
When our own children are being propagandized against things like the British Empire.
Against their own nation, yeah, exactly. Like this is very, very peculiar. And very, very entitled as well.
Whoa, hang on. Sorry, last one. Keep authentic Jewish principles, as well as an open mind and a suitcase packed.
It's exactly what you said, it's always back around the corner.
Yeah, but it's not just like, it's sorry, but look, apparently the accusation of dual loyalty is an anti-Semitic trope, right? Sure, it's thrown out unfairly to some people. But if you do have one foot out the door at all times, like, sorry, we don't have a backup country, and I don't really care if you're going to call the vehicle by which we're hoping to regain possession of that country mean names, because unlike you, I don't have a backup nation to go to if this goes badly.
Sorry, also this second to last one. Believe in the greatness of the eternal Jewish people. That sounds like an anti-Semitic trope. Not gonna lie. Like, that sounds like something that you would have seen in the 1940s.
In the pages of the show.
But again, I would not have any problem with English people having that kind of self-esteem about themselves.
And I have no problem with Jews having it in Israel.
It's the fact that she wants to cordon off that kind of dignity and self-esteem from us, because what this tells us is that somebody like Melanie Phillips is happy to sort of like piggyback off of a faction within conservative politics for a decade or two that presents a form of patriotism, but only allows it so long as it's a carve-out for what she actually wants.
Interesting.
Whereas what we're actually aiming for is a patriotism, is a politics that doesn't have to be a carve-out of somebody else's larger visions or goals. It can be unapologetically, unashamedly be for us.
Yeah, I find this interesting. Ditch the obsession with Holocaust memorialization That's actually quite canny, I think. Because
I think that's a clever thing to say.
yeah, that's actually very canny. Because one of the things about the Holocaust is, as it stretches further into the past, it becomes far less relevant to the non-boomer generations who lived directly in the shadow of World War II, and so it becomes like some sort of weird alien imposition. Like they want to put a Holocaust memorial in London Park, in a London park. It's like, that's bizarre.
This is where Mike
Right.
Fuentes was mocking it in his interview with Piers Morgan, is to deliberately provoke the taboo.
Right.
It's to try and shatter the taboo.
But there was more that I could go over, but we're running up to time now, and it's coming up to 2:45, so I think I can cover the rest of it on a daily channel
Yeah.
thing. So
But the point, I think, is well made. Like, the mask genuinely is off. It's for me and not for thee. And if you want national self-interest, I'm going to call you far right. Whereas she is as far right for her own people as you could ever. I mean, you're not nearly as advanced as this, Harry. None of us are. Like, none of us have thought this through to this level.
I'm actually pretty much a wet liberal
Compared to
in comparison to this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I believe that there was a never-ending war between Muslims and non-Muslims, that every single non-Muslim was the avowed enemy of everyone.
Oh.
Last week, Reform swept the local elections, gaining control over a number of councils across England. And their pitch is simple. They're the party of ordinary Brits, the ones who feel like nothing is working anymore. NHS is on its knees, housing out of reach, wages stuck for a decade, cost of living rising, and a sense that everything in Britain is just broken. Reform's answer is basically this. It's about illegals, immigration, too many immigrants, too many Muslims, and that has resulted in Britain changing too fast. But here's the thing. When you actually start looking at who is behind Reform and who is funding it, the story looks very different. Reform raised over £10 million in donations in a single
£10
quarter
million,
of 2025. More than Labour, more than the Conservatives by a distance. Sounds like a people's movement, right? But
No.
75% of those donations came from just 3 individuals, and over
Yeah.
80% of their donations have
Yeah.
just come from 5. So let's follow the names. Christopher Harborn, British billionaire based in Thailand. He made his money in aviation fuel and cryptocurrency. He's given Reform over £22 million, the largest donation to any political party in British history by a living person. He also gave Farage a personal gift of £5 million, not to the party, but to Farage personally, and it was undeclared. And this was just weeks before Farage announced he was standing as an MP.
Thank
no
you, mate.
obligation to declare something that is an unconditional,
Dodgy, fuck you,
non-political,
mate. Go away.
personal
That's why you
gift.
don't get a penny
Then
off
there's
of
Jeremy
me.
Hosking, a
You are
hedge
off.
fund manager, over £1.7 million given to Reform. He also bankrolls Reclaim, the right-wing party
Why?
run by Lawrence Fox, who
Why?
regularly attacks Islam and Muslims.
Yeah.
I think Islam is a death cult and it's a rot on our society and our culture, and I think the sooner it's removed from Great Britain or its most ardent followers are removed from Britain,
No, if
the
you
better.
believe that, why give it
Hoskins
reform,
has
you
been
dickhead?
a one-man bank for the British populist right for over a decade now. And Nick Candy, billionaire property developer, Reform's official treasurer, his name is in the Epstein files in correspondence with Ghislaine
That's why it's been
Maxwell
told
and
to
her
be
circle.
quiet.
The treasurer, Nick Candy, actually
About
appears
the
in the
Brooming
Epstein
Gang
files, asking for getting
scandal.
Maxwell's email address.
If
Epstein
we
says
all
he
we
likes
went
him
to
a
the
lot.
Epstein files,
Given the
I know
circumstances,
it.
it's his
It's
position in
linked.
party television.
Well, Nick was saying
So linked up, you
I think Nick
pedo,
will sell
mate.
properties to
Fuck
anybody.
you
He's the
pedo.
man who arranged Farage's
Yeah, well,
trip
he's
to Abu
just a
Dhabi
bad
to meet
mate, he's
UAE
a
government,
pedo.
and we'll come back to that later.
Yeah, thank you for
But
this.
Reform doesn't just take money from the financial elite.
Yeah.
It's actually run by them. Nigel Farage
Yeah.
is a former commodities trader.
There
Richard
we
Tyler's
are.
deputy leader. He's based in Dubai, yet supposedly represents one of the most deprived constituencies in England. He made millions in banking and finance. Zia Yusuf, he's a former Goldman Sachs banker, sold his company for £31 million to Capital One. Nick Candy, as I mentioned before, he's the official treasurer for Reform Party. He's a property billionaire based in Dubai. And Nadeem Zahawi, he's a former Tory MP property developer, estimated worth of
all
£100 million.
dodgy, all
He
dodgy,
moved money
dodgy,
offshore to
dodgy,
avoid
dodgy,
paying taxes in
dodgy.
Britain. He was then caught
Dodgy
and agreed a
fucking
settlement of £5 million to the HMRC. Do you notice the pattern here?
Yeah.
Finance,
Thank you.
banking, property,
Yeah.
crypto, billions in fossil fuels, offshore structures, and shell companies.
And it all
For instance,
belongs to
Richard Tice
Epstein
alone
files, I'll
avoided
bet
or failed
ya.
to pay
All of it, nearly.
£800,000 in tax through a shell company while channeling money to reform. So while they sell the idea
Yeah.
of blaming immigrants and Muslims, reform then develops policies that actually benefit
Where
these
is
rich and
Restore
powerful
ain't
individuals.
blaming
They
anyone,
want,
mate.
for instance,
They
to
are
abolish
blaming
the
the
financial
government.
regulator, the same body that would oversee hedge funds run by their donors. They want to scrap transparency rules, forcing financial companies that
Yes, they
get
are
involved in
saying they're going
to
to
disclose
deport
carbon
people. Of course
footprints,
they are.
investments, and how they treat workers.
And they are going
They're
to do.
promising £70 billion in tax cuts for the rich,
But
for their donor
with
friends.
the
And that
deporting
inevitably
people for
means
the
slashing
best
welfare
of everybody.
and also public spending. And the NHS, Farage has said publicly, is open to replacing it
Yeah.
with an insurance-based model.
I think we're going to have to think about healthcare very, very differently.
And that's what
I think we're going to have to
Keir
look
Starmer's been
to
saying
the
about,
insurance-based
I've told you, and
healthcare.
Keir Starmer's been talking.
These are policies designed for the capitalist elite, for the
We
business
was
elite,
talking about
not for the
95.
ordinary working Brits.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, removing the regulations around zero-hour contracts doesn't benefit ordinary workers, doesn't give them employee rights. But how do you sell this? How do you get ordinary people to vote for a party pushing policies fundamentally that
Tell
would
them they're
hurt
going to deal
them?
with their dude.
You need a media operation, and that's where GB News comes in.
Yeah. Lying.
Well, it's 11 p.m. live across the United Kingdom. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News has lost over £130 million since its launch in 2021. Never turned a profit, not once, and yet it keeps going. Its two owners, hedge fund billionaire Paul Marshall and Dubai-based investment firm called Lagatum, keep pumping tens of millions in to cover the losses. Well, why does anyone do that? Well, Andrew Neil, one of the people who helped set up GB News, gave the answer to himself. He said GB News has effectively become Reform TV.
What I didn't want it to become, I could see it was happening, which is why I left almost immediately, was an outlet for bizarre conspiracy theories, or anti-vaxxers, or basically the nutty end of politics.
GB News doesn't just push rhetoric for the Reform Party, it pays their politicians. For instance, Farage was paid close to £98,000 a month to present on the channel. Reform MP Lee Anderson gets £100,000 a year for just 8 hours of work a month. Reform figures get constant platforms. Darren Grimes, Matt Goodwin, Richard Tice, his partner Isabel Oakeshott, all regularly feature and even get paid by GB News to present on the channel. And those who fall out of favour with the party or leave the party find their appearances quietly drying up.
And that was the last time I was on. And GB News,
Yeah,
unashamedly, has now, I'm afraid, become the
Rupert
Farage
Low.
channel. It won't tolerate any opposition to reform or any calling it out.
That's why I won't be watching it anymore. I'd rather watch BBC than fucking won't go back to BBC and ITV, mate. Might as well.
One analyst put it plainly.
Might as well go back to the
If the
fucking
money
corporate
GB
one.
News pays reform politicians were
This is
classified
their
as
bullshit
political
rhetoric.
donations rather than personal earnings, GB News would have been Reform's second biggest donor since 2023. So what you're actually looking at is a TV channel that loses £130 million, kept alive deliberately by billionaire money, functioning as a broadcast arm for a political party, sitting just outside the rules of political donations. Ofcom keeps finding it in breach of impartiality rules, yet nothing changes.
A New World investigation into GB News has found hundreds of shocking breaches of the rules of impartiality and accuracy. Yet Ofcom has repeatedly refused to take action. Andrew Neil says, just as Fox basically became the channel of Donald Trump, it is clear they've turned GB News into the Reform channel.
And here's another thing worth noticing. Tice lives in Dubai. Candy does business with Abu Dhabi. Legatum, the firm co-owning GB News,
all
that's
pedos.
Dubai-based as well. That link to the UAE isn't incidental, by the way.
No.
Back in December 2025, Nigel Farage flies to
Oh,
Abu Dhabi,
purpose.
front row
Lying,
paddock
look
seat
at
at
his
the
teeth, get
Formula One
fucking
Grand
teeth,
Prix,
dumb bastard.
meetings with senior Emirati
Knock
officials.
'em out.
The entire trip was
Thanks,
paid for by the government of the United Arab
Yeah,
Emirates.
why?
Now, I want you to think about who
Why?
they're inviting, who
Yeah.
the UAE government is inviting. The leader of a party who's told audiences that Muslims loathe much of what we stand for.
We have a growing number of young people in this country who do not subscribe to British values, in fact, loathe much of what we stand for. So what do you do?
Who are we talking about there?
Oh, I think we see them on the streets of London every Saturday.
What do they look like? Oh, we're talking about...
What do they look like?
Are we talking about Muslims here?
We are.
That some want to be a fifth column in Britain. That Muslim immigration is driven by a desire to take us over. A party whose canvassers were caught on camera by Channel 4 describing Islam as the most disgusting cult out there, telling voters reform would kick Muslims out of mosques and turn those mosques into pubs.
The Reform canvasser then gives his view on Muslims and what the party would do with mosques.
Lord, so if you don't know about Islam, it's the most disgusting cartel. We're kicking all the Muslims out of the mosques and then turning them into Witherspoons.
A party where a candidate in the 2024 election openly described himself as a proud Islamophobe, and a candidate in the 2026 local elections posted that Islam is a cancer. So why would the UAE invite Nigel Farage, who leads a party like this? The meetings were arranged by Nick Candy. Remember, he's Reform's treasurer, the same man who's in business with a real estate firm majority owned by the Abu Dhabi government. The chairman of that firm sits on the board of the ADNOC, the UAE's national oil company. A man arranging meetings between Reform and the UAE government has direct financial ties to the UAE government. And he's not the only one within Reform. Also, according to the Financial Times, the UAE wanted to speak with Reform because of a shared opposition to the Muslim Brotherhood. Hold that phrase, because it matters. 3 months before that trip, Farage had stood on Reform's annual conference and pledged to ban the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organisation, citing
and
the fact that the UAE and Saudi Arabia had already done so.
There's another announcement that I want to point to, which I think is also very important.
Fuck you,
and
you
that is
fucking
that
bitch.
from the main stage today,
Fuck
the
off.
Reform leader pledged that under a Reform government...
I've got brown eyes anyway, I've got blue eyes. Brown eyes,
He came back from Abu Dhabi, and his deputy, Richard Tice, then stood up in the House of Commons urging the British government to act on a list of 8 British Muslim organisations the UAE had designated a terror organisation.
Yeah, well, they're doing this on
None of
purpose,
those
mate, turning people
organisations or
against
groups
each
had
other, you
broken
see.
any British law.
And they're trying to
Absolutely
turn
not.
it onto
It's what the
someone that
UAE
is
wanted.
innocent.
And
Rupert
remember,
Low,
these UAE
China
rulers
makes
and general
me
rulers of
an
the Muslim
innocent
world
man
will
that's
align themselves
innocent.
with anyone.
I was
Tommy
going to say that,
Robinson,
don't I?
Nigel Farage, Reform Party, if it protects their thrones from one thing that they fear the most, the political and organised expression of Islam. Muslims mobilising, Muslims demanding accountability from those who rule over them, Muslims demanding the implementation of the Sharia within their own Muslim lands. And if suppressing that means funding parties that demonise Muslims, that describe Islam as a cancer, that want mosques turned into pubs, so be it. Their grip on power comes first. You see, the ties between UAE and the Reform Party are deep and extensive. For instance, Tice travels to the UAE every 6 to 8 weeks. He praises it publicly as a model of law and order, but fails to mention the fact that 90% of the population are immigrants, and that those migrant workers who come from a poorer background can face wage theft and also passport confiscation. Then you have Legaton, a Dubai-based investment firm that co-owns GB News, who helped pay Farage's salary. And then you have Paul Marshall, GB News' other owner, the co-owner, who opened an Abu Dhabi office for his hedge fund in December 2024. King's College academic Dr. Andreas Krieg put it plainly. He says Farage had become a useful idiot for the UAE's political subversion campaign in Europe. He called Abu Dhabi the Club Med, of Europe's far right.
Told you it was
Then
him that
there's
fucked up with
Israel.
Brexit.
Reformers set up a Reform Friends of Israel group.
It's him that
Its
sticks
chief global
Labour
affairs
up. It's him that
advisor,
sticks
Alan
Labour up.
Mendoza, co-founded the Henry Jackson
Nigel
Society,
Farage just sticks
a
Labour up.
conservative think tank
There we
accused
are.
of pushing a systematic anti-Muslim agenda.
Nigel
Mendoza
Farage has
is
split
also
has
president
done
of the
Labour in as
Jewish
well. That's
National
why, in
Fund
case
UK,
Simon
which
can't
lists
stand him.
Netanyahu as an
It's
honorary
not
patron.
Rupert Low.
Farage
Don't
has
go
said
for
that he would
Rupert
not
Low, the
stop arms
Muslims.
shipments to
I'm
Israel.
sorry to
When
say,
Trump
but
floated
Rupert Low is an
displacing
innocent
Palestinians from
man.
Gaza, Farage said, I like the
Does
notion.
doing what he
Trump
can for his
says he wants to
country.
take over Gaza
The people
and
of the
turn it into
country.
the Riviera of the Middle
Not
East.
like that
Do you agree?
cunt sack right
I love
there.
ambition.
Fuck
The
off
thought of
me.
a wealthy, wonderful, thriving place with well-paid jobs, casinos,
Yeah, you got a well-paid job, you
nightlife, and it
bastard.
sounds very appealing to me.
Yeah, it
He's
sounds
also
appealing,
opposed
doesn't
to
it,
the
mate?
ICC arrest warrant for Netanyahu. Richard
Yeah.
Tice visited Israel in September 2025, met the foreign minister and the president, and then told an Israeli newspaper that the scariest thing in the British House of Commons is speaking up for Israel while doing exactly that. A YouGov poll from December 2025 found Reform supporters are the most pro-Zionist, most pro-Israel of any major British party's base. But why? Why does a party supposedly fighting for British jobs and British workers and the British way of life and British borders have this level of investment in Israel and
I don't.
Zionism? This is where the UAE connection and the Israel
Sorry,
connection
mate,
start
I have
being
it
two
just for
separate
English
stories.
people.
The
I'm
UAE needs
English.
political Islam suppressed
And
in
I have it
Western
for
democracies
English people.
because political Islam threatens the
I am not
legitimacy of
racist.
Gulf
I am not
autocracy.
against
So
anyone.
it funds and
Right,
cultivates
but I am
anti-Islam
English.
politics, not just in Europe,
My
but
granddad's
across the
one built this
West.
country.
Israel needs a
And
civilization
I have
framing
a
of
right
what
to
it
say
does to
that.
Palestinians. Because if
Doesn't mean
Palestinians
I'm a
are
bad
simply an occupied
Doesn't mean
people
I don't
resisting
have to like
occupation,
anybody else
well,
or
they
don't
have a
have to be.
legal and political right to
I
do
don't
that.
say to be.
But if
I
Muslims
don't
are
like
a
to see
global
any children be
civilizational
killed
threat
anywhere.
and that Israel is on the front line of a Judeo-Christian West
Regarding
defending
if
itself,
Jew,
then Gaza
white,
stops
Christian,
being a
Muslim,
war
Bible,
trap and
it
becomes a
doesn't matter.
defensive necessity. That framing only
I don't
works
think
if
people dying
Muslims are
anywhere is
classed
very
as
nice.
dangerous everywhere, including in Britain.
Yeah.
And the billionaire class funding reform needs a target for the working class anger, a target that isn't them. 3 different actors, 3 different interests, but all 3 need the same thing. Anti-Muslim politics, that's the shared currency holding this network together. And these aren't just separate actors whose interests just happen to align. Nick Candy moves between Reform and Abu Dhabi Capital. Legator moves between Dubai Sovereign Money and GB News. Alan Mendoza moves between pro-Israel infrastructure and Reform's foreign policy. Paul Marshall's hedge fund opens an Abu Dhabi office while he co-owns a TV channel amplifying anti-Muslim rhetoric in Britain.
Reform are getting
What you
nowhere.
have
This is
isn't
how
just
much lies.
separate groups
This
here,
is what I
different
mean,
groups
mate.
pointing
How
in the
many
same
fucking
direction.
dodgy
You have an
bastards?
interconnected
All of it is
network.
all to do with
Money,
fucking
people,
Epstein
institutions,
files.
all amplifying
It
the
is.
same message.
It
Muslims
is.
are the threat, Muslims are the problem, and that message serves all
No,
of them
it'll be fucking
simultaneously.
people like me that'll be the
But
threat.
let's be honest about something. None of this is new. The rich and the powerful using minority as a scapegoat to protect themselves and justify their policies. This is the oldest play
Yeah, in the book now. We'll put
in
it all
pre-war
together, mate.
Europe, the target was Jewish
I
communities.
knew he
In
was
1960s
fraud. I
Britain,
knew
it
he'd
was
done
black and Asian
dodgy
people.
deals.
Post
Nigel
9/11,
Farage.
it was about the Muslims.
And then
During
they're calling
Brexit,
Elon
it
Musk for
shifted to
himself. Go
Eastern
fuck
Europeans.
himself.
And now while Britain suffers, post
And then he
Brexit,
called Keir Starmer.
economically and socially, it's consolidated around Muslims and immigrants again. Reform isn't the problem. It's not the disease. It's the symptom. The disease is deeper than that. It's part of the political establishment that wants to preserve the capitalist way of life, the capitalist system that they benefit from.
They
And
all
therefore it's
benefit
across
from all because
parties,
we're going to
across
fuck you
capitals.
all
It's
up.
not just
We're
reform.
going to
That's
destroy all of it.
concentrated capital.
We'll put it in a
Billionaires and
burning
tax
bin. We're going to
havens,
burn
the
the lot,
financial
mate.
sector, fossil fuel money, Zionist political influence,
And people can
not
have their
separate
lives
interests,
back.
an interwoven transnational network.
Some of
whose
these
wealth
people
depends
can
on
go
the
back to the
economic
good able to
conditions
send
that
something
have
back
actually
to their own
broken
country so they
public
can have their
services,
own
made
lines in
housing
their own countries.
unaffordable,
We can have
and
our lives in
hollowed
our
out
own
communities
country.
across Britain.
And
And when that system
it's
produces
not, but I was going to
suffering,
say,
when
mate,
people start asking
people
why,
are
the
suffering all
network does
over.
what it always does. It finds a
You've got to think,
minority,
from the
builds the
Muslims
media
to
to
English to
amplify the
whites to
fear
everybody,
against this
it's not-
minority. It funds a political party and
And
it just points the
like I
anger
say-
of the people it has harmed at the nearest mosque or minority rather than the people who actually run the country, who cause the mess in the first place. The moment ordinary people, regardless of background, regardless of religion, start asking the right questions, start looking at who actually owns the country, who actually benefits from keeping things exactly the way they are, the capitalist model of governance, the whole thing starts to unravel. That's what they fear, and that's what they're afraid of the most. It's not Muslims, it's not immigrants, it's anger being directed at the system, the capitalist model, and also the people that run it. And that's why we need to be clear. The problem isn't reform, it's the political system that produced reform in the first place.
Well, I'm delighted to welcome Rupert Low to us.
What was he going to say then?
Well, I'm delighted to welcome Rupert Low to a special interview for GB News.
Yeah, I've seen this.
To talk about the state of the world, really. Also.
Yeah, we're not watching you because you're just corrupted, you, mate. You're corrupted to that. Fucking corrupted bastard. Well, that was very, very, very interesting.
The British Patriots continue their rise against the Islamism, the communism, the socialism in their country. Here is the far-left Pakistani mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Pakistani mayor, has now come out in an interview to declare the crime-ridden capital is Al-Miraj.
39% of negative.
Yeah, mate.
Right guys, so today, journey starts Bipton, the old Bipton police station here, which has been vacant for, I don't think my memory goes back that far. It was a police station until they centralised everything into central Southampton. You know, that really weird looking building that needs a good clean.
Oh, yeah.
Today I'm off on a road trip. A restore road trip, where I'll cover about 200 miles and I'll meet 3 branches of Restore Britain doing 3 different things. First stop's Cumbernauld, where Glasgow and North Lanarkshire will be doing a little pick, which I'll see across the nation. These things are great. My second stop will be in Broughty Ferry, where the Dundee branch doing the same. And my third stop will be later on in Broughty Ferry at the branch meeting. This will be in 5 days. I'll have met 4 branches
for Restore Britain,
at 4 different events, and I hope to do far more in my own attempts and efforts to help restore Britain, and hopefully make Rupert Low the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
You're saying it as well, yeah?
That's how we get on.
You're saying it as well. Yep, the Scots are on it as well. Come on, the Irish. Come on, the Welsh. Not the English, we can do it. Oh, look at that man. Look, it's all the people Rupert Low's been getting around places in the Restore Britain. Look. Wow. There's a mums, dads, people just going out getting people just up. Look, I'm going to start as well. Yeah. I'm going to come to Mayfield and I'm going to get myself registered and bits. Just a bit of Canada, like you said, just doing it volunteering.
We're out doing a litter pick. I posted a couple of weeks ago with the help of Chris there, our community clean up in Cumbernauld. So we've got 7 or 8 people out the day just picking up the rubbish along the glen here. We've got to get to the flats at the side there and we'll get a load of the rubbish up there. We just want to make this place look a wee bit better.
And why is that important to a political party?
Yeah.
Well, it's very important to the people that are using the park.
Litter on the floor,
So,
yeah.
I mean,
there you go, and that's
with
Restore
regards to
Britain
Restore
already.
Britain, it's,
And that's what I
it's
said
just
about
a
Great
wee
Yarmouth.
thing
You
that
see
we
the
can
streets in Great Yarmouth, they're clean.
As long as we're
People are
seeing
cleaning
the public
them, people are doing their
eye that we're
jobs.
out doing good, well, we've got to
And that's why they're voting for Rupert Low.
Because I think we've got weight behind us.
Yeah.
We're looking to restore Britain, and it's going to be
The
most
best.
excellent for everybody.
I think that we need, I support Restore. When you were running before, I was thinking of independence and how do we get independence sort of elected, especially if they have zero visibility in their communities. And I'm thinking of the local elections next year in Scotland, because the turnout's like 45% at the most, you know. So
Restore Britain,
if we can get independence or restore, whoever it may be,
get Restore Britain. You want Restore Britain?
We first need to get.
We have to get Restore Britain in all of Irish, Scotland and England, all the people in Ireland, Scotland, England and Wales. We all have to do this.
I will clean it up.
Together.
I will
it's
talk
got to be
about the
done
story to my neighbours. I will leaflet the place. And I will try and build.
I was going to say, we built it back up over the years after all the things, you know.
The ideas and the principles.
The Welsh, the Irish wars. We've had wars with each other.
Let's face it, if we can get
but this is our
people in every city joining in.
Yeah.
Come next year when the elections come, we've already got the support and the activists on the ground.
So that's me left Cumbernauld on my way up to Broughty Ferry, which is just the other side of Dundee.
That's for Restore
Johnny will take me up through a lovely part of the country, through Stirling, Perth, and then Cumbernauld, and go up to Dundee. And what did I see in Cumbernauld? Well, it was great. There was between 8 and 10 volunteers out. Proudly, I dressed up as a store logos, proudly adorning the chest and backs of them. And we went in a lovely little path. Now, Cumbernauld is one of these new towns that are scattered across Scotland, which were designed 60s, built 60s and 70s. With the same sort of rough plan, a town centre with shopping, etc. And then the outer area changing between residential and commercial. You have people work opportunities. And Cumbernauld does get quite a bad reputation. They maybe weren't designed with any great heart, desire to make attractive looking civic buildings, etc. But and Billy from Liverpool, who I was fortunate enough to meet at Tommy Robinson rally on Saturday, he came up from Liverpool a few months ago and found some particularly nasty bits of Cumbernauld. But the bit we were at was a bit that you don't understand exist, because when you're going to Cumbernauld, you don't really go to these places. Lovely sort of wooded walkway, which was lots of people, couples out walking, families out walking, young kids learning how to go scooters and bikes. And well utilised, a lovely little bit. Yeah, there was some rubbish and stuff about it, little pockets of it worse than others, but you know, not a lot of time and effort taken to really make a difference to that community. And it's great, and you know, these things are really, really simple, but really impactful to local communities, and long may it continue. So let's see how we get on up in Dundee.
So I got that wrong, it's something mixed up in the messaging. We're not doing a letter pick in Broughty Ferry, we're doing a leaflet drop. So we're on the knock in Broughty Ferry. Get the steps up today, wish me luck, back so already, that'll be the meeting.
Well, I'll do that through Berry.
Thank you very much.
I get the leaflets off them and I'll do it
I
through
mean,
Berry.
it's hard to find a reason why not to join Restore, to be perfectly honest. I think Rupert Low leads it, he's a man of conviction and integrity.
Yeah.
He clearly wants to have a party by the British people, for the British people, which I really admire and I agree
the Scottish
with.
And the Welsh.
You know, I think for too long we've been putting up with the political establishment who've been trying to undermine us, who've been trying to almost in a way replace us. You know, we need to be serious about the future of the country and what's it going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years. You know, is this home that we can continue to have for ourselves as it should be? And at the end of the day, it is our ancestral homeland. I think we need to be serious about reversing mass legal immigration in order to reclaim that. You know, got no problem with people wanting to come over here and contribute, but only if that's what they're doing. They need to be learning English, integrating with British culture, they need to be paying their way. We have already enough people who are shirkers and not paying their proper fair share of society, and frankly, we don't need more people from outside of Britain contributing to that as well. We need to reward the grafters of the country. We need to give a bit of a kick up the backside of people who aren't paying their way. And ultimately, we need to get back the demographics where it's Britain by the British for the British. And I think that's fundamentally all we have to do.
I have had an incident of abuse in the past by a migrant, and I think that they should not be here for the reason of that I'm not the only one, and definitely not the only case at all.
Does that mean it's not for joining?
Yes.
So that was yesterday. It was a great day with some good people, doing some wonderful things. And if you want to be part of this Restore Bride campaign, grassroots level, changing of our country, area by area, then go to like in the description. We'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Make sure you click the like button. Make sure you add your comments
Rupert
below.
Low is
If
getting
you want others to see this, then share. Make sure you're this message.
Can't count it. It is. I can't believe Nigel Farage is a sharker. I knew he was a shark.
So, reform have employed bot farms.
Yep.
Have they? I know people have said that for a while, but
it's okay.
What is there actual evidence saying like
evidence?
Is it like definitely?
It's looking pretty undeniable, to be honest.
It's alright, let's just hold that.
Probably just have a look.
Okay.
It looks pretty undeniable at this point in time, so all alleged, but it is looking pretty much like a slam dunk.
Okay.
So yeah, this has been popping up for a little while now, but there's just more and more evidence, like pretty much overwhelming evidence. Reform UK appears to be using bot farms located in the Philippines and also Ecuador as well, which we'll get to.
Okay.
To influence the Maker by-election. Is there anything they won't sing to? This comes after Bradman and Tice retweeted an account which published lies about Restore support earlier in the week. Also, you notice Richard Tice has turned his replies off like a little fucking bitch.
I haven't. I don't. I have replied to Dicey a couple of times, but I don't.
Can't do it anymore.
I've got the bell on.
Turned his replies off because he's a bitch.
It's a bit of a bitch move. That's a bit of a bitch move. I'm quite block happy myself, but I don't turn replies off. That is weak. That's truly weak, I think.
It's because they know that the Star are going to win it.
Anyway, so let's have a look at some of the evidence.
They've
so
lost it.
Right?
Don't matter how much
you can see the format of the bot work here. It's just screenshot compilation. Restore Britain's numbers don't impress me. Reform UK is the one with momentum and a chance to beat Labour. Splitting the vote with Restore just helps the old party stay in power. Restore Britain's Makerfield data isn't convincing. Reform UK is the only one that can beat Labour and deliver change. Restore just splits them. I mean, look, it's literally three sentences. Yeah. Every single one is 3. Restore Britain's Makerfield data looks unimpressive. What is going on? Like, why is it all the same?
And why aren't they using letters and full stops?
Because it's bots.
Okay.
Clearly it's bots. Okay. Reform UK is the only one that can beat Labour and deliver change. Splitting the right vote with Restore just helps Labour stay in power. Again, their Makerfield data looks weak.
Do you know though, my gut reaction is, right? My gut reaction to my first knee-jerk spontaneous response is that it's so pathetic that it's not a problem. Again, just have a quick look at the numbers. Not that that's even the main thing, but the numbers on these are sort of tiny. They're not getting great, massive engagement or loads of people saying, "Yeah, you've changed my mind."
Yeah. We're trying to flood it, basically, isn't it? What happened?
Every house, literally every house, mate. And that every house is probably because one's not English or whatever.
Will flood. As well as actually AAA video games.
Which will probably, they will probably go to the Green Party.
With positive comments.
Which is fair enough, you know.
They're releasing in an effort to mitigate.
But like you say, I mean, there's things like beef at the Green Party. We have probably beef with
It's just a way to mitigate the negativity.
Yeah, but they're trying to be giving the most money at the moment.
Specifically, but it's to mitigate.
By a lot of dodgy dealers.
Commentary from being overwhelming. So it's not that the singular tweets will get a lot of traction, but it's because they flood a website.
But it's okay
because
Rupert Low's going to have some good.
Basically,
he has got a good donor already. He has got one of the best donors in the world.
That's UK. So loads of Philippines App Store, brilliant. 5 username changes.
I hope this person does do what it's saying, does donate.
My broader point, my meta point about that it's pathetic.
Well, the party
still absolutely stands. Because this
to
is
the people,
sort of,
like,
and the concept of what you're talking about, that you'll get bots to just try and mitigate on the grand scale, on the scale of the whole internet, and attempt to try and mitigate the slew, the tidal wave of negativity. Isn't that the last ditch effort of something that's failing?
Oh, it's a proper bitch move. So
the last was the star, mate.
That normal people fundamentally don't like.
No offence, but the Reform Party sticks Labour up.
That's just pathetic to me.
It's a bitch move because also it betrays what they know themselves. So it reveals that Reform is well aware that actually their support in Makerfield isn't very good.
They're the ones that have fucked all of Labour's plans up. They're the ones that have squashed everything.
So actually, what this shows is the data that they themselves are getting is disastrous for them. So much so that they're doing this.
Again, taking it out on the people.
It's just,
they should be taking really out on Reform.
This is that weird website, a weird account that people were quote tweeting and stuff. But yeah, so interesting. And you can see there's just more, so zoom and retweet.